Top of the league, Stevie. You're singing this morning.
Still top of the league.
Still top of the league.
This is fantasy.
This is fantasy, yeah. This is 30 years in the waiting, Steve.
I had
You're dreaming, wake
Oxlade
up.
Chamberlain on my bench last night and he grabbed a goal. So 9 points.
It's going alright. So
how many games?
A little more
It'd
confident.
be what,
We've got
like-
13 left. We're 22 ahead at the moment. City have got a game in hand. They're playing Tottenham tonight. Home on Tottenham. So, yeah, we'll see. Could be happening. I don't know. Still not overly confident. Not getting ahead of ourselves.
No, it's pretty much done deal.
So I think we're going to win.
What's it now?
it's
Six more games, 6 more wins, and you've actually got it mathematically or something.
Ahead. City can, what do they say they've played? 24. They've got 14 left. They can make 42 points. So,
They're not making 42 points.
I hope not.
Not that their form. It's like win, win, lose, draw. Win, win, lose, draw.
How's Burnley going?
Burnley? Why Burnley?
Didn't you lose to Burnley last week?
Oh yeah, we did too. Yes, remind me of United.
Well, you
Yeah.
weren't here last week, so we're going to give it to you now.
Yeah, but we do have Ollie here.
And we've got
Not Ollie
Puflet.
Gunnar Solskjaer. Ollie Puflet.
How are you, Ollie?
I'm good, thanks, Ali. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, man. We're good to have you here.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
And that was a pleasure. So how's it been, man? You've come back from Singapore.
Yeah. Well, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but it was glad to get my first professional contract under the belt, get my career started, and
Yeah.
it was kind of something that I had to do. And
Yeah.
I'm home now. Lovely being back in Sydney after 11
Still
months
humid,
away.
yeah.
And so
Still humid here, right?
yeah,
like Singapore.
well, not much difference here,
Yeah.
but
It's probably more humid over there, though, isn't it?
it was hell over there. Couldn't
Yeah.
even walk to the train station without having to change a shirt. You know, it was awful.
Wow.
Awful. Couldn't wear black shirts there. No way.
Just wife beaters.
Yeah.
Walk around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we kick into it, we're just gonna talk about your career, kind of
Yeah.
to date. So
Yeah.
where you started off,
Yeah.
how you got involved in football. So you're 20.
Yeah, I'm 20. I turned 20 in July, so
Yeah.
another 6 months, and I'm 21.
21.
And yeah, I started playing football when I was 5. I did, under 6 at the local park at Queen's Park in the Eastern Suburbs. And, I was just kicking a ball. My dad was a manager. My best mate's dad was the coach. It was nothing serious. And then next thing you know, under 7s, under 8s, under 9s, they're recruiting for good teams to do champions of champions and under 10s. And a new team got founded, like Bondi United, and they, recruited everyone from the region, and then we won champions of champions. We won the whole league, didn't lose a game, only got 1 goal conceded. It was like fantastic, and that was playing against Daniel Arzani and like stuff. It was fun. And then we did under 11s and under 12s Metro with Eastern Suburbs as well, and we then won the league both times, the first time ever, and that was against like all the black towns, the representative under 11s and 12 Metro leagues. It was actually quite a good league back then. It was like really good for young kids to be playing in a league of 2 conferences and 14 teams each, all these metropolitan leagues. It was awesome. And it was a really fantastic time, and then you have the state titles midway through the season. It's awesome for your development. And we just then won both leagues that time, and then at the end you start getting recruited into your MPL1 teams, and I actually didn't get recruited into. I had a trial with RPA, a trial with Sutherland, got turned down from both after being highest goal scorer in the whole
How old
Metro
were you at this
League.
point?
I was 13
Yeah.
there, and I got turned away from both those. They're called Premier League sides then. I got turned away, and it was kind of weird because I was there, highest goal scorer in the Metro, had like 30 goals or something. Me and Daniel Arzani were playing up front. It was so fun together. And then they went on to the Skillaroos, and then I couldn't get an MPL1 team, and I went to Sydney Uni.
Yeah.
And then again, took a step down and had to then start working a bit harder. And then I got a call from Sydney Olympic the following year. Stayed at Sydney Olympic for 3 years there. And it was again like a really strong side, and I was struggling for game time there when I was there. So it was pretty hard for me actually, because I was there catching the train out to training in Canterbury every day from school, and wasn't getting any game time. It was a strong team, and I'd be maybe to come on the bench for 15 minutes, you know,
Oh,
get
wow.
every week. And then I just started doing some more private training like you do here, just working on a bit, training every day. And ended up getting a bit better. And by the time under 16s, I was actually playing. And then I got to move overseas, played in France for a year with FC Metz,
Okay.
which now they're a bit like up and down each
Yeah.
year, League One, League Two. And that was like, for me, like the best years of football I could do for myself. Like it was fantastic playing with players that are now in League Two, League One, awesome players. Like there's a kid there called Vince Till who was the first player born in the 2000 to play for Europe's top 5 leagues, and he was staying in the room next door from me in the dorms. Like it was a phenomenal experience. And then I came back, and then I've been at the Wanderers for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I went to Singapore, and that's basically a quick rundown of my career. So I played at the Wanderers, under 18s, under 20s, NYL for 2 years, and that was all with Arthur Dillis. And then I was lucky enough to got a call from the young Socceroos when they just started doing their first camp. We had a game against Sanfrecce Hiroshima with the NYL, and it was Trevor Morgan called me down. I wasn't actually in the NYL squad. That was a year that I was doing under 20s. And I just ended up scoring a really good goal, and it was with all the older boys like Lockie Scott, Liam Yuli, Mario was playing. They were all there. It was my first time playing with them, and I scored a really good goal. And Ufuk Tale happened to be watching, and then next thing you know, was going down to a camp there, and it was kind of a bit surreal for me there because I've always been on the bench, never really a good player, and then I come back from France, playing at the Wanderers and doing a completely different player, and now I was like playing with players that I would always be taking my spot, and then they were on the bench and I was playing. It was kind of a bit crazy for me.
How was that France experience?
It was pretty phenomenal. Like I arrived in July. I left for France on my 16th birthday, and was there for 11 months.
Yeah.
And about 8 months through that 11 months, my parents got an email from the Wanderers saying we'd like you to come, and my parents organised it so that I could come a bit like late into the pre-season, and they thought it was okay. Yeah. And it was just phenomenal. Like the training, like Metz is an absolute wonderful academy. It's one of the best academies in France. It's ranked like 5th in France, like behind Lyon, PSG, and like Monaco. It's absolutely outstanding. Yeah. Like Sadio Mane was from there. Many players. Frank Ribery even played there. So many fantastic players, and the way of life there. Like in football in Europe, the clubs are so tight knit with the community. Like a couple of players in the team been playing there since under 5s. No change of club like I would be throughout the whole year in a roller coaster. They're just there, living in a rural town like Metz, population of 300,000, and they just play for their local club. But it's not a local club. It's a huge club. Do
you think training or matches what really helped you improve?
Well,
you said you improved, but was it
when I was there, I couldn't. I have an Australian passport. I didn't have a French passport, and they just said to me, "It's going to take us like 2 years to process your passport." And I wasn't actually signed. I was just there. Okay. And they said you can stay at our academy, and so I couldn't play in games, but I was training every day with them, and in pre-season games I would play, and in trial games I'd play. So occasionally when they'd have a bye, we'd go to Belgium for a game, or go to Germany or Luxembourg or play at a team, and I would get game time, and it was fantastic. That's all I wanted, and it didn't really matter because the level there was just so amazing, like incredible. And the generation, the 98 borns of FC Metz were champions of France, like a super strong team. And then the 99s and the 2000s which was where I was, and the under 17s, also a fantastic squad. Yeah. And so the level of training there was enough to like sustain me. And it was kind of weird because now when I'm in a period of training and not playing any games, you miss playing games. So when I was there playing at such a high level, it didn't really matter to me. Like it was all right. Like I could just chug away, and it was intense. It was 3 doubles and 4 singles. So training more or less 6 days a week, and
How did they
hard.
adapt with that with school and stuff? Like,
Well, it was actually quite funny. Like, I had to go to French school there, and I
Oh, yeah?
learned, I was,
Did you learn French or not?
Yeah, no, I had a little bit of French, like, from school, but, like, nothing. Like, I didn't speak to anyone for the first month because
Yeah.
I was embarrassed to speak French, you know? But, yeah, at the end of it, I started making friends and speaking French, and then so some mornings you'd have I think it was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you'd have a double, and then Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, you'd just train in the afternoon, and
Yeah.
it was awesome. The club, they had a school which all the academy players would go to, and I went to that school, and I'd then private French lessons, kind of like in between there. So I'd kind of go for like a period and a half, leave, walk back to the academy, have a private French lesson with the coach's wife, then go back to school, and then the club bus would come pick you up, take you to training, train for 2 hours, come home, and then have 2 hours of study in like their big academy like classrooms, kind of like a space like this, and you just come and do studies, and they get tutors to come in and help everyone, and then you can just go to bed, have dinner all together. It was a fantastic setup, and it was right behind the stadium of like Stade Saint-Symphorien, and it was just awesome.
So it sounds like a busy schedule, eh? Like,
Oh, it
imagine
was-
that.
Sounds like what it
training.
should be.
School.
When I look back at it, I was like, that's crazy. Like, sometimes
Yeah.
you get up, and then sometimes you'd be invited to train with the under 23s. You get up at 6:30, walk to training, 7:30 train with the 23s. Then one of them 23s all got cars by then. They drive you to school, and then you do school, and then you're walking back to the academy, and it's just a really busy schedule. But I was just
You
loving
were never
life.
really bored there then.
Loving life.
So
there.
how'd that move come about?
Well, I went to France. So my dad has a friend with 2 daughters, and they came to Australia to learn English, and then Dad said, you're going to go to France and learn French. And I went there, and it just so happened that he built the pitches for FC Metz. And I said, let me just walk in, like, please, I just want, and I was there. About the last week that I was there, I said, let me go there, and I just want to train. Can I train? He was like, I'll try organise something. And he took me into the academy one day. And the coaches all speak English, all very well spoken people. And I just said, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'll play for Australia. I'm an Australian player. Yeah, let me train, which I wasn't at that point, but I just wanted a shot. And then they said, yeah, well, we have a week off for Christmas. It was the 23rd of December at that point. I came in for the 23rd and the 24th to do a session, and everything just went right. Like, I've never played better in my life. Like, and they were just doing like training sessions and fun games basically before the break, and we did the 7-a-side competition, and I was on the team with the coaches, and I never played better, and it was in front of all these coaches that all played League One, all ex-professional footballers. I didn't know at the time, and I was just scoring everything. And then next thing you know, I've come home, and I've had an email from them saying, we'd like you to come back for 6 months or a year. So I went back, and it was never looked back, just hopped up and left. Had to organise it with my school and everything. It was awesome.
That's
The best.
Awesome experience.
And I got a great relationship with the club, and I then went back. So I then had a year at the Wanderers, like I said, and then when I wasn't expecting to get an NYL contract, and I didn't. So then I went back there for another 6 weeks, and just had an awesome time. And it's pretty crazy to think about it. Like, FC Metz playing in League One, and I was there playing with these players that are all professional now, all huge, and it was kind of weird. Like, I was so foreign to life at that point. Like, there's kids that are in my team, and they're wearing Louboutins to school, and I didn't know what they were. And I'm just wearing Vans. I go, there's the weirdest shoes. Like, what the hell are these kids wearing? And then now, 2 years later, all my friends are around professional football. I just it clicks in a bit. You know? A bit crazy. But yeah.
That's good.
So then, how did the Singapore move come about?
Well, I was playing for the Wanderers, and I'd been there since their inaugural youth team set-up season, and Arthur's believed in me as a good coach and always had faith in me, and he had an offer from an agent just saying, like, do you have any young players that would be interested in a foreign move? And he recommended me, and I got a call from an agent, and it kind of happened really quickly. I got a call on like the 15th of March, and the deadline was on the 20th of March, and it was for an under 23 foreigner spot, and I just like literally got up and left because I kind of knew at that point I'd had a little bit of training with the first team, and it hadn't really, like, they hadn't really taken as much interest as I would have liked, and I just knew that if I want to do what I want to do, I have to go and do this move. And I kind of set a goal for myself to sign my first professional contract before the age of 20, which is very achievable and not an unrealistic goal. And I just thought, if I'm to do this, then I got to go and do it. And so 5 days I got up and moved to Singapore. You know, kind of left everything behind, but there was nothing bad that could have happened. It was a positive thing for me at the time. You just got to take little steps in your career each year, and that's of course a step up, playing professional football in a foreign country than what would have been another season in the NPL2 with the Wanderers youth team for me. So yeah.
Yeah, and how was the Singapore League?
Well, the Singapore League was actually quite strong the year that I was there. In other years, it hasn't been so much competition, but the year that I was there was maybe 4 or 5 teams, 2 or 3 points apart, and it was a small league, only 10 teams. It's kind of like the A League, and yeah, it was fun. But it's really hard being a foreigner in an Asian country because it's your responsibility to win almost. And so I was there, and the first game that I played, both foreigners are injured and it's just me, and so it's my first game with this team. I've been training for a week, and they just put me in number 9 first game, and I scored on my debut. I ended up playing really well, but it took me ages to get into the game, and before you know it, 20 minutes into the game, I'm getting yelled at by all these people because I'm not dribbling from halfway and everything, and I'm just like, this. I'm just so not used to this.
What sort of league is it? Is it technical? Is it fast paced? What is it?
It's pretty direct. It's pretty direct league. Not many styles of play, but you're in such humid temperatures, and the Singaporean players, they're all used to it, and they're all quite nippy. Like they're nippy players, a bunch of nippy players, and they're quite technical as well. Like, but they're just not as well coached as they should be, and they've kind of settled into mediocrity. Like, if you took them away at 16, 17, they'd all be quite neat players, but they're just settled into a league where there's only 10 teams. One team's in each year, one team's
It's a very
out.
small populated country though, isn't it?
It's got a population of Sydney, so it's basically like the NPL. But I just equate it to NPL 1 here.
Okay.
And
so that's the level.
Yeah, but
they're
sometimes a bit higher level. Like, you know, some teams like just play well, and they're teams which have Singapore capped players, and my team was lucky enough, had the captain of the Singapore national team and 3 or 4 other players that have capped for the country, and it was a good team, but you know, it didn't go as planned that season. We came 5th out of 10, so it's alright. But
it's decent.
Yeah, well, from a team that was winning their AFC Cup, you know, they were a really strong team last year, to then come 5th and be 10 points behind first. They were really disappointed. The board was really upset. And so that's what happens, I guess. Yeah.
So they only play in how many stadiums do they have?
Is it
They only had I
thought it was one. The artificial.
No, they had
Hong Kong?
they have 5 stadiums, and they used to have more, but they kind of cut it down because the quality of the fields. And so there was 2 synthetic fields and 2 grass fields.
Yeah.
And basically the team just shared them around, basically. And so, it was all right. I'd prefer to play in less stadiums with better quality grass and better quality synthetic field than these other small club stadiums. Like, it was kind of horrible. One time we trained on one of them, and I was like, oh, so you guys played on this last year? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, I could not do this. I could not do this.
Do they have separate training grounds for them, or are you training at the stadiums?
Oh, we trained at the stadiums, and it was pretty good grass there. Like, when we went to Singapore with the young Socceroos, and we trained at that stadium in Singapore for a week, and it was like a perfect.
That's the main one they have, right?
Setup. It's called Bishan Stadium.
Yeah.
And that was like a good stadium, and great grass, good facilities, whatever. No gym and stuff, but like change rooms and so that's all you really need. And for a small club, and it was that's all. At least there was good grass. Like one of the biggest things for me is like it's got to have nice grass.
Do they have a good footballing culture there? Are they into their football?
Yeah,
like the fans?
Did you have fans?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, not really actually, but they are into their football. But the football's on the down in Singapore. Like they used to be really into it and stuff.
What's the biggest sport there then?
Well, it is football, but like it's just such a business.
It's a very
capital,
commercial, very commercial
country.
Expats.
Yeah, like there's
economic
150,000 Brits living there, 150,000 Aussies, and 100,000 French. It's all there for business, and every bank in the world kind of has a tower there in the city, and so I guess the indigenous people of Singapore are kind of on the outskirts of the island, and that's where the football is based. But I mean, it used to be pretty big. Like they used to be one of the most successful teams in Southeast Asia. Singapore, always winning the Suzuki Cup, which is just between like Malaysia, Thailand, all those Vietnam and stuff. Which for them is all they aspire to be. You know what I mean? Like Australia has really big goals, trying to qualify for the Olympics, win the World Cup, bloody whatever.
Yeah, because I think we had Abbas Saad play there for a lot of years. He was like considered like a god of football there.
And like even Brenton Santalab played there. Yeah. Like a lot of, you'd be surprised by how many Australians play there. Who was the player that just used to play for Adelaide? Was Danish, foreigner.
Who's the foreigner? Danish? I don't know.
Ken Islo played for Home United for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like it's a in terms of Southeast Asia, it's quite a good place for you to be, but because it's a good country. Like a lot of foreigners want to be in a good country rather than Malaysia, where they're not sure how it's going to be, or Indonesia, where they're not sure it's going to be.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely a cleaner country.
Yeah, a cleaner country.
Because that's a big setback for a lot of Aussies looking to go to Asia is the language, the food, and that. How was that in Singapore, and how did you adapt to that?
Well, it was okay. Like,
do they speak English?
They speak English there, so it's okay. But then, even then, the social life around football was completely different. Like, not once did one of the native players there ever ask to like chill or hang out with me, and I was just like, bro, what? A 19-year-old kid moves to your country, and you're like not want to like, oh, let's take you out, take him for lunch. It was kind of weird for me. It would never be like that in Australia or everywhere in Europe, where it was for me previously. You know, like.
Was that a cultural thing, or they just didn't like
I think I think for sure culturally, because it's just like he's another foreigner. He's got to be the best. Blah blah blah. If he's not, then we're a bit off him. Have a bad game, your fault, you know. And so you kind of just stick to the foreigners like me and Song, the Korean, hang out every day at training. Isaka would take me out to dinner at least once a fortnight, once a week. And so that was kind of good to me. But other than that, just sticking to myself. You know, they gave me an apartment, treated me well. And so I just go back to the apartment, do whatever. Yeah.
So you bored there a lot of the time?
A lot of the time I was bored, but that's where you just got to take up space in your day with just working hard. No, I don't even know how to play FIFA, mate. But it's just, you know, just go to the gym, you know, work on myself. Because the level of training wasn't top, tippity top, but the games were okay. And for me, I find that really hard to transition from not intense training to quite an intense game. Like I kind of want to build into the week and be working really hard at training and then have an intense game, good game. But these players kind of just chill and then turn it up for the game. I'm just thinking like, wow. And it's because they've settled into that, like not caring about it as much. And it was a bit weird for me. So I kind of have to rely on myself to push myself. And I'm okay with that.
We're a bit opposite here. We
exactly.
Train intensely and then we
and then the games are
the level of the A-League.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Like me and Isaka had a heart rate monitor on his wrist every game, and he'd come to me, he goes, guess how many kilometers I ran this session? I go, he goes 4.
4?
Yeah, he goes, how
many do we cover in the A-League?
And then he goes
10
more.
Average 10.
We're one of the highest in the world, I think.
Like your midfielders and your wide players are doing 16 kilometers.
Yeah, because everyone wants to play. Yeah, in A-League, it's one of the highest. in 40-degree heat.
Oh, that must be confusing us with AFL, man.
Yeah, AFL,
that's
rugby union,
stupid.
you kick the ball from one end to the other. Yeah, we do
Yeah.
way too much running.
Yeah, well, it's weird. You know, Australia's kind of they're developing their own league. It's gonna take a while to get their own identity of football, and it's kind of they have trouble at the moment. Like you go and watch games, and it's not very entertaining.
No.
But then when you play in the games, you think you're doing the right thing, but it takes a while.
Yeah,
to-
I think a lot of factors play into it. Like if there's more fans at the game and they're cheering.
yeah,
Like, do you remember Western Sydney versus Sydney FC? Those games used to be epic.
yeah. I
But
remember.
Western Sydney used to be good.
Yeah, when Sydney they used to be good, but it's like
Yeah.
the atmosphere. I think it plays into
Yeah.
it as well. It gives the players a bit of a drive to.
Yeah, I mean, it was
play more intense
always
game.
it was always really good going to watch Western Sydney in their inaugural seasons. It was so fun. Like I was at Sydney Olympic at the time, and one of the coaches was a big fan. Like I don't know how he became a big fan in the first season, but he was always bringing every team along, and it was just so good. And I was like, because I'd go and watch Sydney FC, but oh yeah, Del Piero's first game, and go and watch Sydney FC.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would never go and watch the A League, and then next thing you know, I was going to watch Western Sydney 10 times a year, and it was fantastic. And watching Shinji Ono play was awesome. But then again, the A League's kind of on its own course, going to figure out how it's going to do. It's expanding. Whether that helps it or not, we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
So back to the France journey. So from growing up here in the youth setup here
Yeah.
to then going over to there, what were some big things that you've seen different? Like obviously France is one of the leaders in obviously
It
the
was-
World Cup champions.
Yeah.
So what were the big things that stood out that you'd seen?
Well, it was kind of surreal for me. Like I came there, and first thing we do 2 weeks in Marseille for pre-season, and we had a tournament down there against all these like big clubs: Marseille, Monaco, Lyon, Lille, all these clubs, and I scored a goal against Marseille. Actually, I was in this tournament. It was just like crazy, and they're so about their football. They've got 40 players to a squad for under 17s. They're all willing to do what they want. You go to their youth team, they've got 8 pitches, 4 synthetic, 4 grass. The coach, they have 5 coaches to every squad. You know, like it's really hands-on. And then you come to Wanderers, and Wanderers, no discrediting to them. Like, I love my time there. But we had Arthur working almost by himself with 25 players.
Yeah.
And that's you need more coaches in your ear. You need
100%.
more coaches telling you how to do things and being in your ear, motivating you. And that's kind of the thing. They're really motivational, really well-spoken coaches. You know, before games, their team talks go for 25 minutes. And it's like a speech. You're listening to them, is like really captures you. And here I am, don't even speak French well. And I'm just like starstruck by how he's like captivating me to play my best game of my life, you know what I mean? And all these players were fantastic, like absolutely fantastic. And it was kind of mind-blowing to see like that's the level I've got to be at. And I believe over the course of that 6 months, I ended up reaching that level. And it was an awesome time. I remember playing games and not being good enough, and then 3 months later I was good enough. I was training at that level, and they kind of split the squad into 2 like sections, like 17A and 17B, and most of the time I'd be with the B's team. And then throughout the second half of the year, I was starting to train with the A squad and being around the A squad, which were all like awesome players, 4 or 5 players playing in that French under 17, under 19 team. And it was just like crazy, like absolutely crazy.
Were the things that they were doing differently in their training sessions there, or the similarities to what we do here?
Well, it was kind of weird because like I went from Sydney Olympic, which of course was completely different to there. But then when I came to Wanderers, I was starting to do the things that I was doing in FC Metz, but just like on a lesser scale and a less intense scale.
Less intensity, yeah.
And that's all right for just a club beginning. Their facilities weren't the best, and they're building up. And now you look at Wanderers and they've got awesome facilities, and I'm sure they're doing the right things now. But back in my first season there, it wasn't like FC Metz, an established club, 100-year-old club, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we'd have like a strength and conditioning coach, 4 coaches, 2 goalkeeper coaches, like awesome stuff. And for every session we're doing plyometrics and strengthening, gym sessions sometimes. Not so much actually. When I went back for the 6 weeks, a year later, a lot more gym. It was like they turned it up when you go into the under-19s. But it was just really phenomenal. We did like fantastic like fitness testing and stuff. Like I'd never really done fitness testing at Sydney Olympic, and then we go there and then we were doing like that blood test when you run around like what Liverpool do, where they take the blood from the earlobe to see how much.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like I was like, what the hell? Like,
To see what is it?
yeah, see how much the lactate test. See how much lactose is in your blood, and it was just like awesome, like absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like a professional environment. but
Yeah,
it's
and,
what you
and,
want.
and that's what you expect from one of the best academy. Like, and it didn't really kick in once I left. That like that's like the tippity top. Like, that's a really good academy, and like made sense. Like every time I was training there, these players were so good with their first touch. They were playing everything one touch, and you'd go and watch the under-19s play on the weekend, and it was like, no discredit to the A-League, but better than the A-League, like absolutely phenomenal. And Metz is in the top corner of France, just under Netherlands and Belgium and Luxembourg, and that's where Lille and Nancy are, and they're also fantastic youth squads, and they'd be in the same competition. So you go watch this, and they get a crowd of 1,000 just around a synthetic pitch, and it was just awesome. And you're watching these players that, like, I didn't know who they were now, but who knows where they are now. Like,
Do the youth teams travel like from one city to another?
whole
league?
Well,
How's
basically they're split up into regions, like into
okay.
like 8 regions, and it kind of depends, and it changes each year. Like, so you're not always gonna have the same team. So like, basically like down south where like Marseille is, they have like Monaco, Nice, like all Lyon, all the best like down south, and that's like a really awesome, like Montpellier as well down there, which is awesome. And then up north you got the Lille, Metz, Nancy, Troyes, like all these again like fantastic clubs. And there's basically at that level, League 1 or League 2 team don't really matter. It's kind of about the like how good the youth setup is. And it like a club like Le Havre, which are in League 2, have like one of the best youth squads in the whole of France. Pogba, Kante, Mahrez, all from there.
Yeah, you tend to see that in Europe, because they invest a lot in their youth,
and
so
they
then
don't
they
really
sell 'em.
look for end product in the first team.
Yeah.
It's kind of just get them out, you know.
Yeah,
And so that's Metz is kind of like that. And so it's just awesome. It was just awesome. There's, say, like 40, 50 teams there, which would have incredible youth squads. Like Lens as well was up there. They'd play, and it'd just be like phenomenal watching these players. And so a lot of players that I was playing with there would then, you know, follow them on Instagram. Next thing you know, they're signing for Sporting Lisbon, signing for Everton, signing back for Lyon, going back to Monaco. It's just crazy times. And then you'd see them playing in League 1, and you're just like, I was training with you 6 months ago, and it's a top 5 league in Europe. There's no, if he was Australian, he'd be a Socceroo, you know what I mean? Like, but I was training with you. It was just crazy for me.
Was it hard to motivate yourself when you got back to Australia, going from that level of intensity to?
It actually wasn't, because I felt so much more superior to a lot of kids that were always way better than me. And so I came to that under-18 squad at Wanderers, and the likes of Costa Grozos, Jessica Tardis, and they were all way better than me when I was younger. And then here I was matching them a little bit better here and there. And it was just like, I can do this, I'm feeling better. Now back in Australia, being at the top rather than being on the bench, you know? And so it was really good for me. I liked it, and that first season at Wanderers was awesome for me. Like, I played like, I'd say the first half in the under-18s, I scored 15 goals, and the second half in the under-20s, and I scored another 10 goals. And then I even made my NYL, like, first team debut there. And it was like really good. Like, I really went up that year and turned it up another level. Then next year was under-20s and playing more first grade, and it was really good. And then we went to young Socceroos from there, and it like, basically after France, it really like got really good for me, and I was constantly going up age groups that made the level better. But then once I was at the NYL team and playing MPL2 first grade with the squad, it didn't really, that was like I kind of reached a ceiling for development there. Like if you're 17 and then playing there, it's awesome, it's really fast paced for you. But then when you're 19 there and you're not pushing yourself against older players, it kind of like plateaued out really hard.
Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of tell my parents that all the time. I was like, the only way you're gonna, raise your bar is kind of by playing with older players. But then once you're the oldest player in the squad or one of the older players in the squad, I found it really, really, really hard to keep like pushing levels if you're not playing in that A-League squad. And so that's kind of where it happened for me, like where I reached the bar. Like when I wasn't getting a look in with the Wanderers, I just knew that it was time to leave. And when the Singapore offer came through, I had to take it.
What's next?
What's next?
Yeah, plans.
Oh, I'd love to go to Europe. Scandinavia would be awesome. I think there's some fellow friends playing in Denmark, like Zach Duncan, absolutely killing it there.
Yeah, he's there.
Seems like a really good league that's not too far from Australian standards. You don't want to kind of jump the gun and try to go to Germany or England or one of these leagues. I think you got to work your way up, kind of adapt to European football a bit. And so I'd love to make a step to a country bordering those.
It definitely is a
countries.
good step.
Yeah.
In terms of Scandinavia, because their level of football isn't too much
Yeah,
ahead of us.
Exactly.
But still Europe, you get your foot in the door.
You get your foot in the door, and that's what it's all about.
How much Scandinavian leagues have you watched lately?
No, actually, I watch.
We watch Midtjylland in the Champions
I
League.
watch. Actually, I got a few players from the Iraqi national team that I just keep an eye on.
Exactly.
But so obviously, here in Babel made some comments this week. I don't know if you've heard them talking about the players here, how they get comfortable. So they reach that ceiling here, they get comfortable.
Exactly.
And then that's the thing. You would have seen it over in Europe. In the time I've spent, I've seen it with the players. Just that hunger, knowing that if I take my foot off the pedal, somebody's going to overtake me. So what advice would you have for younger players coming up now? That from your experience in France to now, to younger players, what would your advice be?
I'd say that hard work takes a lot of time, and you've got to really. You reap what you sow, You've got to sow that hard work for a year, or 2 years, 3 years before you actually reap the rewards. So you can't really, think, I've been working hard for 2 months now, I'm not seeing any difference. You've got to really keep on pushing yourself. And if you want to be at the top, if you want to really, really be at the top, you can't stop. Never stop, actually. And so it's really hard, actually, when you think that you're doing a good job. Oh, yeah, I'm training with the Wanderers every morning. I'm pretty tired. I'm not going to do a session in the afternoon by myself. That's not the right mentality. You really need to keep pushing yourself. And for young players out there, you've kind of got quite a clear pathway. If you want to be serious about your football, you got to go to those Sydney FC teams. You got to go to the Wanderers teams. You got to quickly get up the age groups and prove that you're better than the other players. Get those NYL caps in and show that you should be in the A-League. If you've got a European passport, you beg your parents to send you over. You got to beg them. Because it's lucky. You're lucky to have a European passport in Australia. Yeah.
I think that's the other thing. If you got your EU passport, head over. You can get into a lot of teams.
I mean, I used to I kind of despise it because I don't have one, and there's a lot of players around me that never have aspirations to go to Europe, but they're Greek heritage, and I just go. Like, this is me coming back from France. I, of course, would have stayed there my whole life if I could have. And I'm forced to come home. And I'm like, you got to get over there. Like, you're good enough. You're good enough. You got to just go do it. And so, that's it. Yeah.
Are you a big football fan? Do you watch a lot of it?
I watch a lot of Arsenal, actually, sadly. At the moment.
I'm an Arsenal fan.
But, I just watch it as much as I can, get the Optus Sport and just watch everything, match of the day, everything. I love watching it. And I don't watch any A-League besides when my friends are playing. Yeah. Which I don't think... Why is that? I don't think it's very spectator friendly at the moment. I just think it's not as entertaining as it should be. A lot of players are... I don't know, they're really informative about we got to keep possession, but the way they keep possession is passing it around the back four. They got to.
Yeah.
And but if you look at the second Bundesliga too, all they want to do is go forward. All they want to do is go forward, and it's fun. They get 20,000 games. It's all they want to do is just go forward.
Yeah.
You're not frowned upon if you're losing the ball going forward over there. It's just entertaining for the fans. And I don't know. The A-League, Australia's always tried to be like its European counterparts, but I think it needs to build a fan base by playing entertaining football at the start. So that's my opinion.
And that's the other thing. You can't get relegated in the A-League.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's too concerned about losing the ball.
Exactly. Like I've watched a couple games since I come home. Wanderers Brisbane, Wanderers Western United, and Sydney Derby, and I was just like kind of astounded the way Brisbane and that Brisbane Sydney game was awful, and the Western United and Western Sydney game was awful. And if it weren't for my friends playing, I wouldn't have been there. And the only thing that's exciting is watching your teammates play, and that's why I'm there. I'm there to support my friends. But other than that, it's just not good enough. The fact that there's 4 shots a half, added together for both teams, is just not good enough. It's not good enough. Everyone's afraid to shoot. Everyone's afraid to score. It's kind of weird. Like if it's not, wouldn't be there.
No, that makes sense.
Are you still going, Steve?
Hey?
Are you still going?
What do you mean?
At the start of the season, you were going to the Wanderers game.
Yeah, I still go. I go with my dad. That's it. I just go hang out with him, spend some time.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Take my mind off here for a couple of hours. But it's obviously I'm not there thinking how much of Liverpool.
Are you on your phone?
Hey?
I said, are you on your phone when you're watching the games?
No.
Yeah.
No, I still like going for the whole event. Hopefully it'll get back to one day like it was, even just for the fan. I don't think the football was ever amazing, but I think it was like you had the atmosphere, so that kind of made up for it before.
Yeah.
Now it's just mellow. Like we're not hostile as Wanderers fans anymore, and it just sucks. But
I mean, it was. I think back then everyone had something to prove. Everyone was, and if you look back, it also was a really good squad. Aaron Moy was playing there at 20, and he was just doing absolute bits for himself. And the squad was young. Tony Popovich had a hard-working squad which really worked hard and got the ball up the field real quick. Yeah. And that's the football that's attractive.
Definitely.
And if you look now, Perth are doing the exact same thing, and that's why.
Yeah, Perth are doing really well.
Perth are doing really
But
well.
the Wanderers, when they came in, they lifted the standard.
They were really
when
good.
Del Piero also went to Sydney FC fans started coming in. It was just
and it was that time was a really good time for the A-League. But I look at it now and I think Del Piero is a massive player in football, and he came to the A-League, and that's a really significant thing. Those players now, they go to the MLS, and I think Australia's kind of got to compete with the MLS, and the MLS is growing so much faster and has so much more money pumped into it.
who was the last big name marquee that was in the A-League?
Heskey.
But even getting Heskey was decent. If you look, imagine you get a Heskey
exactly.
now.
But Robbie Fowler played for Liverpool. Heskey played on 200 games in the Premier League. These are big players. When are we ever gonna have? Is there a Premier League player in the A-League now?
I think from the bench of the bottom team in League One.
Exactly.
League One in England or something, League Two.
Exactly.
So,
and
and that's the level that
Is it Scottish or is he Irish or Scottish?
I think he's
English, but he can play for Ireland, so he plays for Ireland.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
so that just shows, I think that's a really good indicator for the standard of the A-League at the moment, is where the foreigners that they get in,
We're obviously restricted though to salary cap as well. That's part of our problem.
But not the marquees aren't.
Yeah, marquees aren't.
And it's not discrediting. They're all amazing players. They have way more illustrious careers than I have had so far. But we want to be a great league, and it's not going to be that if we don't have
our marquee signings in the past couple of years have been absolutely shocking.
Yeah, I think so.
Disgusting.
And look at this season. Was it Alex Meyer? 37.
Yeah, Alex Meyer.
Just when you think it couldn't get worse than Peter Vicari, they just go, watch me, and then here comes Meyer. But it's a shame. It's a bit worrying. So some of the boys are starting to float back through, and just some of the feedback about their sessions, and I don't think it's a great time in the A-League at all. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly worrying where we have 10 teams now. Western United having absolute problems at the back, so Connor Payne's left, Connor Chapman's left.
Everyone jumping ship at Western United. Scott McDonald.
Scott McDonald's
He's
left.
Brisbane, I think.
Calver's done his ankle, Hamill's done his knee. They've got 6 centre-back injuries. Timotheo went for a medical and things fell through. Like, there's big problems there. And these are new clubs, which it shouldn't be happening. It should be
I think Diamante's injured as well.
Yeah, it should
He's
be
got
better
injuries.
set up.
Sorry?
Kone's injured.
Kone's
Have
injured.
they been getting fans? I haven't really paid much attention to them.
They keep playing like in Geelong and that, so it's like hard to tell them.
Yeah.
It's
Really
a-
see it.
like an
AFL,
oval stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
they're trying to promote the game big time down there.
well, I like these are new clubs and they should be better set up. That it shouldn't be happening. And then there's MacArthur on the horizon. If it happens with MacArthur, and we all know what's going on with, Newcastle and Central Coast. They're all been at the bottom now for 3 or 4 years,
Throw Wanderers in there as well.
and
Just
we could
say.
throw Wanderers in there.
Yeah.
Wellington used to be down there, so it's worrying to have these teams.
The purpose of the salary cap is to keep every single team on
Plateau.
one level, right?
Yeah, but it's not that way. At
So
all.
look at the NRL. Some clubs year by year they'll improve, but like in the A League, it's been consistent. Central Coast, Western Sydney Wanderers,
Yeah,
Newcastle were alright a couple of seasons ago.
yeah.
But I think part of it is recruitment as well.
100% is recruitment.
Just signing the wrong foreigners if they're not better than what we got.
But
But
even
that's
the
the
top
thing. It
locals
comes
as
through
well.
like they work with specific agents who have players they want to offload to the club. This is the type of stuff when they work with these foreign players. That's why we don't get quality foreign players.
Yeah, you got a point. I mean, like, you look at, for example, Central Coast, they've got that Jair guy.
Like, he wasn't successful in his last club, and then he was playing in some league in Asia. He's come back. He's like, he's not a quality foreigner.
Is he the striker for Newcastle?
No. What was he playing? He's a winger, right? I think
Yeah, he's
Jair.
somewhere
Winger
in
for
front.
Newcastle, and then he went overseas. He's back now at Central Coast.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just some of these recruitments.
And I think it's sad when especially Australian players come home and they're like, you speak to a lot of players who have left overseas and they go like, I'm never going back to the A League. I've spoken to lots of players that have left the A League, gone for a season overseas. They just go, you can't go back over there. It's just it's a concrete ceiling. It's not a glass ceiling. You can't get out of it. It's just.
Yeah. I think everyone's worried about their positions in
Stagnation.
the A League, and no one wants to take that risk.
Yeah, everyone. So much stagnation there, and it's sad.
Did you hear about the second division?
Yeah, with the
update?
NYL
About the
setup.
NYL,
Yeah.
how they both contradicted itself.
We'll go under 23s and bring him into the second division.
And NPL teams or something as well.
and 6 NPL teams.
And then we don't
But
want
that won't be a
A-League.
promotion relegation, would it be?
No, it wouldn't be. It would be
So
maybe
what's the point
later
of
on
it?
down the. It's because like in Spain they have Barcelona
Yeah.
B that are in the Segunda,
Yeah.
but they can never get promoted.
Yeah, because of
But they're following the US franchise where you got DC United under 23s are in the USL,
yeah,
and all their second feeders, and they're trying to sell it that way.
yeah. But it's not
And
like
the A League clubs are like, oh, we'll pay for it now if if you guys. And it's like, well, it's not going to work, man. It's
What
just
do you
not.
think? Do you think it would work or not?
No, I don't think. Look, you should expand your. It should be instead of NYL should be under 23s. Because as soon as they hit a certain age, you was at 21. Wanderers are kicking players out.
But it's even less than that. Like
Yeah.
at 19, players
that's the
feeling like they're too good for the NYL anymore.
So
And the
there's-
NYL's getting weaker and weaker as well, and it's kind of
It is getting weaker.
it's getting a lot weaker.
Right.
I
Yeah.
remember when I was just at the Wanderers, the team that was in the Wanderers NYL was like, I thought a bunch of god beaters. They were Liam Yulee, Lockie Scott, Cammy Devlin, Kanu Bacchus, Mario Shabao, but they came like fifth. They weren't winning, and I'm going, how are these players not winning? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how strong it used to be. And then
NYL setup's weak. I think we need to
Was it 8
expand the
games?
A League. Huh?
It's got 8 games.
Yeah, 8
Play like the
games.
same team 3-4 times.
Yeah, that's
twice.
the thing, man. Like the A League clubs need to pay for these guys to travel the country and play against other A League teams.
Yeah.
Like you just have to pay that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
you're-
you're a professional club. You should. be
You're
able
probably
to
getting
afford
more
that.
out of the MPL 2 or MPL 1 than playing in the NYL.
Yeah,
well, a
100%.
lot of players play NYL and then they go back to their MPL 1 clubs, and I think that's literally not a bad thing. If you're getting if you're getting time in MPL 1, it's almost more beneficial because you're playing different styles, better competition, grown men, jumping the age group again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a big problem in Australian football at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem actually.
We got lots of problems. Matilda start their qualifiers tomorrow. That's if they go ahead.
Oh, because of all the
That'd be interesting,
coronavirus stuff.
Is that here in Sydney, is it?
Olympic qualifiers, yeah. At Campbelltown. I don't know who would put a game at Campbelltown. but
Is the
games
Matilda
at
qualifier
Campbelltown.
open age group?
Yeah. It's the
Okay.
Olympic qualifiers, yeah.
So Sim Kern stuff playing?
Yeah,
They all came down?
Yeah.
Back from
They
Chelsea.
came down to play Chinese Taipei and stuff.
It's China and that as well.
Oh.
Yeah. China and Thailand, like, we're in no position to say like, we're going to beat anybody. So
We need full strength
be
squad.
interesting. Hopefully they do well. I think they are at full strength, not too many injuries. So be interesting to see the crowds as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Australia
one
versus
positive.
China, who's going to go watch?
Yeah.
Right.
One positive is that the women's football's doing quite well.
It was doing
It
well.
was.
It was.
I think it was. It's
Yeah.
Oh, they
It's in
have
decline as well.
to have two Australians playing for Arsenal and Chelsea is pretty
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
I just take that.
It's on the up, on the individual level.
Yeah.
We've got two individuals
On
involved
the
and you're doing well.
individuals.
Good go, Jones.
Yeah.
All right. Ollie, thanks for coming on, man.
Pleasure.
That's
It
all
was
right.
good to
Thanks,
have a
Ollie.
chat with you and your experiences. Hopefully, you get your European move. in
Yeah,
the
I would
next
love
window.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, guys. Till next time.
Ciao.